Hey, Ronnie here. Shall we make a game? I love weekdays, doesn't everyone? Anyway, last time we got to the point at which we could cursor over a thing, we get asked, do we want to go to the movie theatre, we say yes, and then it freezes because we haven't written any more script. So, I'm thinking we do a bit of editing magic and we teleport these two guys close to each other and then have them do the pickup and leave. So, I think the apartment actually has, that's the wrong apartment. I think the apartment actually has some script we can reuse here. Yeah, I'm going to steal all of this here. Yeah, I'll make them move together. Because previously they, the one that walked up and the other one walked to the other one. This is an action that's going to happen multiple times. It's a repeat of an animation they've already seen. Let's cut to the chase and just have them sort of teleport in. So yeah, here's our existing script. You say yes, and it sets a fixed camera and deletes the lists. Okay, so then we can reuse all of this. And we want to rename everything in here as introduction apartment because it's now on the world map. We'll sort this out later on. We have to do advanced declarations of all these. That's no problem. We'll just get round to it. Don't know if we're going to hit an hour today, just because so many other things are happening in this wonderful wide world around us. This might look a bit strange, as the Z coordinate's probably not right. He might pop into the map. In the meantime, let's... Yeah, I don't actually need to position them in here because the timer will do it for us. So... Oops, not reacting. Reaching protagonist. Here it is. Let's reuse this timer. And I really should have done that before, but renamed everything, but there we go. Okay, so now we have to replace these with some plausible looking variables. That'll do. And we no longer have to do this complicated interpolation, so no longer they're on the same plane now, they weren't before. And we'll just do something simple. We're doing a jump cut anyway, so them being in the exact same position doesn't really matter. There we go. Do I not have a... Am I not storing the component ID for that? Oh, I guess I've not needed it up until now. Yeah, we'll refactor this later. Honest. Wink, wink. Okay, yeah, I need to actually store these animated mesh components somewhere. Oh, they are here. Oh, hang on. Where are they defined? Oh, they're quite high up. Ah, okay. I was missing the opaque from the other module. Okay, whatever. Oh, that's right. We need to animate both the angel and also the protagonist. Oh, and we also need to start them playing animation as well, so they actually walk rather than just sliding across the floor. So we just multiply their kind of like exposition. What is this? So if we go for say 0.25, that should look okay. Should. Maybe. Don't know. Yeah, wouldn't it be like pi divided by 2 from it? Right, so I am trying to build a game in like 60 days. Just basically a very simple sort of adventure game, and for some reason using a custom engine. I'm trying to do it at the rate of 1 hour a night, and sometimes that's working and sometimes that's not. How's it going your end? Well, this is not C. This is not anything anywhere near as advanced as C. Sorry, C sharp. Ah, brain is fried. Damn it. Yeah, they say that. Well, I'm pretty sure someone said that being exhausted, it has the same effect on your cognitive abilities as being drunk. Now, we've all heard the Bulmer Peak, so maybe being really tired makes you a great programmer. Oh no, people don't say that, do they? Oh, actual cringe. Oh, that's true, yeah. Huh. I mean, how old is Twitter? Twitter's over a decade old, right? It's about somewhere. I'm going to say it's somewhere in the region of 12 years old, right? And I mean, C sharp has been around a lot longer than that. It's been around like what 20 years. So, huh. Oh my god, I'm old. I don't know if you are, but damn, I'm old. Now, the question is, how old is Google? Because it's not exactly brand new. When was Google? Tell me, when was Google? 1998. I thought it was older than that. I thought it was more like 96, 95. I remember back before Google was really a thing, and people used to use Alta Vista, was it called? And Ask Jeeves was another one. I think that one still exists, but I don't really know what form it's in. Yeah. Insert GIF of God, which actor is it? My brain is completely fried. Oh no. The one where a guy gets old. Okay, odds on this working. 1 in 20 maybe. Okay, it compiled. That's good news. Oh, Good lord, what the hell just happened? I remember AOL CDs. I don't really remember much else about them. Oh, I've kind of entered the game into a weird loop. Let's get back to that menu screen. So yeah, kind of the kind of goal with this project is it wasn't actually inspired by the recent Unity kind of like implosion, but it's definitely that kind of thing. Because in my career personally, I've spent an inordinate number of years basically dealing with dependency problems. I am sick to death of dependencies. I do not want a dependency in anything I build ever again beyond the compiler. Which sounds insane, but so have been the last 10 years. So this is a software renderer. We're not even dependent on graphics APIs at this point because, you know, Apple deprecating OpenGL has proven that you can't even depend on those being around much longer. So yeah, custom engine, custom renderer, custom import tools, everything. And it is jank and it is terrible because I'm building it under time pressure. There are many bits that have known bugs. Like there's an issue where yeah, that's the thing, right? I mean, it's especially bad in the world of PHP because PHP what is it like? What is that version schedule? I don't remember. Anyway, it's non. Yeah, here you go. So they basically have a release roughly once a year, and beyond that year you get you get 1 year of 2 years of active support, 1 year of security fixes. Now you can imagine if you're kind of like building a project here, it means you actually only get 14 months of active support, and only not even 2.5 years of security fixes, at which point you're gonna have to port it. You're like, oh, that's not too bad. You come from the world of C# where it's like 99% backwards compatible. PHP is not. Virtually every version of PHP I've ever used has had completely non-compatible changes. So, stuff that works in 7.4 no longer works in any version since. Just insane. Just how you're meant to build and ship and maintain products on that stack, I have absolutely no idea, but everyone seems to do it, so whatever, I guess. So I'm just going to eliminate this so it doesn't try and leave the scene, and I'm going to have a look at what happens and try and figure out what on earth I've done wrong, because I've definitely done something extremely wrong. So let's reload the script. And so he kind of goes to the middle. And he's meant to backflip, but he doesn't. It sets a timer, and the timer should run this jumping thing. And he should start doing a backflip, but he doesn't, which is interesting. I copied this code out of a screen where this definitely works, so hopefully this isn't another engine bug. So yeah, not only are we using C, we're using C with no memory allocator. For some reasons. So everything has to be like a static global variable. There's just no other way of having memory in this. It's terrible. It's dreadful. So yes, like you can't just what is that? So it runs this script. I'm just going to stop it running the next scripts in the chain. One of the things that's not so great is because this is currently compiling to WebAssembly. Is that means you can't say have like a render loop in here. You simply can't do that. I mean, if you want, say, a script that has like rendered frames between steps in the script, you have to make a separate callback per step, each of which is a different C function. It's just complete nonsense. It's utterly dreadful. Okay, and then he's walking. Hang on, was he walking before he kind of moved? No, he wasn't. He waited till he stopped moving. So, oh, what's happening? What's happening? Okay, so we're definitely setting an animation there. It doesn't appear to be playing straight away. And then running this timer, which should be moving in towards the middle. In fact, it's been moving both. Ah, hang on. I'm moving both the protagonist and the angel, you know, one after the other. Rather, well, I'm moving the same one twice rather than moving them both separately. So, next question is, why aren't they further back than this? Oh, I took the map's position, not the character's position. Ah. Okay, now I have to go for all of these. And see, if I'd actually gone out of my way to name these something meaningful, I would have spotted that instantly. But to save myself like about 10 seconds of work, I've just cost myself like multiple minutes. That's efficiency gains right there. Okay, does that work? No, at least it put him on the right side of the building this time, but it still hasn't moved the other guy. Okay, so we're moving the Angel's Matrix and we're moving the Protagonist Matrix. Are we actually ever setting this? Ah, we are, but again, we're setting it from the wrong character. So, first of all, we tried to move the protagonist twice, and then it turned out that we hadn't actually got a reference to the Angel's position. We'd actually got two references to the protagonist. Ah. Okay, that's getting closer. I mean, literally getting closer, but you know what I mean. Okay, so next up we need to adjust this slightly so that they don't quite meet in the middle, and maybe give them a little bit more time. So, why use a modern game engine that has, you know, like a nice animation tool where you can, you know, drag and drop and keyframe and stuff when you can just write code that is incomprehensible from the moment you've written it? Let's increase the length of that animation as well. They're at least facing the right way, which is good. It usually take me 3 or 4 attempts to get them facing the right way. Okay, at which point this guy should grab this guy. Oh, I've got them both kind of sinking into the floor as well. That's not right. He should already be on the floor. At which point we then teleport the angel to the middle. He's facing the camera. We delete the protagonist, and then we play an animation on the angel, making it look like he's carrying him. Okay. Yes, the general gist of the game is, in terms of kind of like plot, that you play as this elderly man. You're woken up in the middle of the night by basically an angel appearing and saying, "Hey, you're dead. But before you can kind of move on to the next realm, there's something you have to do. You basically have to decide the fate of a few people. You know, you basically lived kind of well, and you're now basically a jury for humanity. So this is basically where you kind of like go into kind of like these sites of various interpersonal conflicts, and you'll be able to kind of like inspect the scene and try and figure out what happened. And there's something more going on. You'll find out when you've actually made your choices. Not that we'll ever get that far with this game prototype. There we go. Hey! I mean, he stopped a bit too soon, but that actually kind of worked. Right. So I might start this fade transition slightly earlier. And start it here. At which point, this will now complain because I've got a method I'm no longer using. Oh, I actually was using it, just wouldn't have done anything. Okay. And so at this point, we're now going to jump to the next scene. But currently, currently we're not actually storing which scene you've selected, so I need to actually store that in the variable here. Something I did find out recently, I never knew this. Apparently the _t suffix on a type in C is actually reserved for POSIX types. So half my code base is actually just violating very widely held principles, which is cool and neat. Whatever, I guess. So we're just going to store whichever one you've selected in that list. Oh, we need to wait till they've... Oh, we don't wait till they've clicked yes, because we need to... Yeah, we won't know which one they've clicked on by the time they've clicked yes. So next script is going to be... Yeah, I'm sure that's not going to have any let's see how many times that shows up in the code base. It's okay, sensitive. So yeah, only 2,609 occurrences. I'm sure there'll be no unforeseen consequences by doing a find replace on that. I could make my chances better by using regex. What is it, boundary? I can use regex to at least find where it's at the end of a word. It'll probably be fine. Yeah, so I do plan on open sourcing the engine for this eventually, but just not quite yet. It's when I've actually built something with it, I guess, and worked out all the glaring design flaws it has. And I'm thinking it's going to have this README on it, and the first line is going to be, please don't use this engine. Okay, oh, actually, I'm storing that in the variable. I'm not actually using it. That's classic, isn't it? There we go. At the moment, it's got a very edgy placeholder of Jura's Requiem, because I had no idea what the heck to call it. A name may, an actual name may occur at some point, who knows? Right, this should, let me say yes, it should crash the game as soon as we, Yep, that's right, because if I open the inspector, it's behind the chat. How do I? There we go. Unrecognized script, because we've now jumped to a script that's not defined. So basically, I got this. I don't know if you've really seen C, but it doesn't have. Well, some versions of C have enums, many don't. So you largely use preprocessor directives to kind of create constants that are kind of treated as an enum by kind of convention. And then I basically got this big switch case. Now, in theory, I could use like a function pointer or something, but this actually gets, the current script actually gets persisted between runs of the game, so that if I refresh, it'll actually go back to the scene you were previously in, because it actually stored in the browser's local storage. If I can find it. There it is. It's actually one of the pieces of information that got sort of quick saved last time the game successfully changed scene. So what I need to do next is I need to commit what I've just done, which sounds like sounds like crimes involved, which definitely is given the quality of that code. Oh yeah, also no math library, so have a sign table. Okay, yeah, it's totally finished there. There may be other crimes, like some of these variable names are getting out of control. They really are. Look at that. That's a variable name. What is that? That's 65 characters. Okay, so now I'm going to let's go to the next. Let's go to a scenario. So yeah, make a new folder for that. So when I say a script, because if you hear script, you're like, oh, this is where it loads Lua code or something. No, they're just functions. It's just that they're kind of like treated by the game engine as though they are kind of as though they are scripts. The idea is that, like, if you're making, say, I don't know, a JRPG of a world map, you might have a script kind of per kind of like door exit that would then call to scripts to like create a room and then position the player there. It's almost kind of like, the start of a session, kind of, I guess. Okay, so script scenario, movie theater, yeah. So one of the things is that I actually wanted kind of like a bit of a range in terms of like scenarios, because like each one of these buildings you can go to is going to have like a different kind of like interpersonal conflict in it. You're not actually there in the event, you're there for the aftermath, and you basically have to like inspect the scene, talk to the angel, and try and get like an idea of what happened, and whether you're going to judge these people and like where you're going to assign the sort of guilt, as it were. But I wanted a bit of a range of kind of like severity and grayness. So you have some that are just obviously kind of like black and white. Well, obviously that person's just evil, or in some cases like, well, these two people were both bad to each other, or oh, this one was just a misunderstanding. But you'd also have kind of like levels of severity. So you might have ones that are quite like and this is going to be one of the sort of like silly ones, where it's almost kind of like, is this seriously something that is considered, worthy of a juror? And in this case, it's just someone eating popcorn too loud. But the kind of like reason for this is it kind of gives some context that the angels are kind of responsible for humanity, but they don't really understand us. They don't have any context for anything they're kind of witnessing or involved in, which is why they have human jurors. Okay, so then I should be able to import that from here. Here it is. Script, scenario, movie theater. Could I make it any worthier than that? But the real curse is yet to come, because I'm about to add some more 3D models to the game, and the way that's done is, yeah, it's going to have you wishing you were still in Unity. So, I'm mostly taking advantage here of the fact the game is small, but virtually every single asset, whether it's a texture or a model or a sound effect, is actually just compiled to C code. It's just a big stack of numbers in an array. Yeah, just the quickest, dirtiest way I can find of doing it. So I've got the scene kind of here in Blender. This is nowhere near finished, but I can start. I can put in some file for a start. Let's get rid of everything that shouldn't be here. I'm actually going to keep this kind of like whole prototype of the angel kind of here, just so I can, yeah, I'll mostly try and stick to, say, kind of like very slightly sub PlayStation 1 level kind of graphics, just because it means I can do things quickly. I don't kind of get lost in micro detailing. Yeah, it's a great piece of software. I mean, like it's always been really powerful. And it wasn't until about 5-10 years ago that the UI made any sense, but it's now, relatively kind of accessible. It's still full of weird, but it's borderline accessible, which is quite damning with faint praise for sure. One of the if you were going to get into Blender, I'd say one of the most important things in Blender actually for discovering features is if you press the F3 key. I think it might vary depending on which version you have, but F3 I think is the latest one. it brings up a search box and you can just type in things. So like, I've got this camera object here, right? And I want to have a look through it. So I just type camera, and then it could have been, you know, further up the list, but set active object as camera. And now I'm looking for the camera and I can position it. Not entirely sure where I actually want to put the camera in the scene. I need to actually fill out the background. Hopefully tutorials will kind of like include that, because it's so kind of, I think it's so sort of super critical to actually getting things done with Blender. Oh yeah, I never actually got around to modeling so that the pile of popcorn is going to have on the floor. One of the things I've actually found the hardest in this project is writing dialogue. I've never really done it before, and writing dialogue that fits in boxes and doesn't waffle but still gets the point across is so difficult. Again, my own really terrible tooling is not really helping. It's definitely not helping, because there's this thing where because it's statically allocated, the images that the kind of like, it draws text to an image to put it on the screen. They're fixed size, and if the text is too big, the game just crashes. So if I put too much text in a box, I just have to keep making it shorter until the game stops crashing. And there's no kind of like preview or anything like that, because I can't even use character count, because different characters have different widths. Okay, what was I doing here? Oh yeah, okay, so I'm just going to mirror that instead. Why is that? Why is that its own object anyway? Can I get away with making this any narrower, just because that's a lot of... No, I don't think I really can, while kind of selling it as a movie theatre. Right, so now I need to... Wait, did I have a... Oh yeah, I did make a separate polygon for each part of this. Don't remember why, I just did. That's very much the vibe here. It's just kind of like, why did I do that? No idea. Anyway. So one of the other things that, I don't know if this is unique to Blender, but it's one of my favorite tools in Blender, is the 3D cursor. It's this kind of like weird kind of like life ring looking thing. It's basically a point in 3D space. You can kind of like set it in the menu here. You can move it around. But you can snap the cursor to something, and then you can actually use it as a pivot point. So what I'm actually going to do here, because I've snapped it to the kind of middle of the row of seats, and then I've actually set the 3D cursor as the pivot point, and now it's rotating around that point. But it also means I can then grab this and scale it on the x-axis -1, and now it's mirrored to the other side. It has, however, turned inside out because I flipped it inside out. So I'm just going to flip that back around. Yeah, I think I got like halfway through modeling the back of this and then just gave up, I think. Right. One of the things that is kind of weird about Blender, and this definitely applies to other 3D packages, like things that are level editors don't tend to do this, but Blender, 3ds Max did it, I think Maya did it, is that the camera is like continuously like rotating around the... Oh yeah. I mean, if you've used AutoCAD, there's, the basic like 3D thinking is definitely going to be kind of like pre-ingrained. That's a good starting point. It doesn't have a lot of the things that AutoCAD has though. Like it has like the ability to like snap to various things like edges and stuff like that, but it doesn't have like all the, because I think you can do like parametric stuff, right, where you kind of like size something as a proportion to something else. Can't really do that in Blender. But it does have like a lot of the snap tools and stuff like that. But yeah, so like in Blender, like the camera like rotates around a point in 3D space. And then when you like pan the camera, that point moves with the camera. It's very weird. It kind of makes sense if you're working on, say, like a single model, but if you're working on an entire scene, it really doesn't. So there's a button that I bump all the time by accident, but then when I want to find it, I can, called like view selector. It's basically whatever you've got selected, it centers the camera back on that object, which is just like, well, it's super useful. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, I could be wrong because it's a massive package, but I don't think there's anything like that in Blender. I mean, in this case, I'm just using like vertex snap because I don't remember how big these were. These probably were a standard size, like 1/4 of a meter or something, but I don't remember. And then I'm going to cut this down the middle. Oh, there's no middle. What? Why did I do that? Sort of, yeah, sort of. I was studying for like a career that was going to use this at one point, and then looked at the employment rates and went, no. You know, however often boring programming is as a career, it's at least reliable and well paid employment, which you can't really say for the games industry. I'm just going to shade in all of these completely black because they should be out of sight, but they might not always be. This is still currently a gigantic texture, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to move these into their own texture sheet. Yeah, so when I was hang on, let me just open the right file. I'll do. When I was kind of starting out with this project, one of the things I was really struggling with was kind of color balance. Don't open that folder. It contains spoilers. That'll do. Yeah, one of the things I was really struggling with was color balance and trying to make everything kind of sit in the scene because this engine has no lighting system, so all light is kind of hand painted into the textures. You know, it's all just sort of like, you know, gritted in there. It's all like tiles with like shadow around the edges and that kind of thing. And I kind of wanted to make sure the characters looked like they were in the scene, so they weren't like too bright or too dark, but they still stood out slightly, so you could easily distinguish them from the background. So I put them all on the same sheet, so I could basically edit the palette because I'm using pixel edit software. So I could edit the palette in here and kind of like see it all at once. This background color is cursed. I think I was having trouble like because like this sort of angel has kind of like a lot of lighter and darker patches. I think I made the color really, really obnoxious so I could really tell where the outline was. That's better. So let's just grab all of it. I'm going to need a bit more texture space than this, but not much. And because this engine is dumb and has a dumb import system, it only supports TGA files because they're very easy to parse. Right. Now, one of the other things that's going to be kind of annoying is in Blender, much like other 3D software, coordinates for UVs are actually stored in normalized space. So 0, 1, 0, 1. Mean if you lower the texture, you know, if you say resize the texture, all of your unwraps and things like that end up in basically, well, predictable but wrong places on the on the resulting texture sheet. So I'm just going to reorganize this and then I have to do a lot of manual tweaking. One of the nice things about the engine that I'm kind of like experimenting with here is that it actually has, because it's not hardware accelerated, a lot of the kind of like common restrictions we'd really have on game graphics, like power of 2 textures, draw calls, things like that. All of that actually applies or matters because it's not really going to, well, it is eventually going to a graphics card, but as a complete composite image, not not tiny individual instructions. Let's move this out of the way. Yeah, I'm gonna say that sort of like sort of pre-baking like light and shadows and in textures and stuff. When they're this low resolution, not really that big a deal. I mean, it's just basically a bit of a scribble. It would be because I did try this kind of style with a much bigger, more ambitious scene once, and it was definitely a problem there. It definitely did not work. It definitely, this kind of approach and style did not scale to kind of like large rooms with kind of like higher resolution textures. I don't remember what, I've got a rough pixel density of, I think it's something like 8 to 12 pixels a meter, which is very little. It's very low resolution. It's like, it's lower than most PlayStation 1 games actually were. But it just means I've got fewer things to shade in. I can get things done more quickly. Move all these around. The other thing I'm going to have to do is manually pad the UVs because my triangle rasterizer is not very good. It has multiple bugs and its precision is quite frankly shocking. You can expect to see, if I just, I'm probably going to export this just like this in a minute. You can expect to see like transparent seams down the edge of everything. And I mean everything is going to have just weird kind of like sort of open wounds down the side of it and that kind of thing until I manually pad the UVs. It seemed like such a good idea at the start. Make your own engine, yeah. You can never have a licensing dispute if you've never licensed an engine. You quickly figure out why people license engines. So I should now be able to load in rooms. Something I have discovered is Blender has a bit of an issue with transparent TGA files. Turns out there's actually no real consensus on how you define a transparent TGA file. There's actually two different, not that there actually is a hard spec anywhere, but the specs that have been written have multiple interpretations. And I've gone for one, and Blender went for the other. So we're going to use the 2D cursor, top left corner. It's just like the 3D cursor, it's just like a point in space. And I then need to get the resolution of... Wait, I'm going to resize. I was going to use a bit of texture box. Yeah, okay, right. I'm just going to size it down to that. That should leave me enough space to put in the other stuff. TGA. The reason for it is it's very simple. There's almost it is compressed, but it's run length encoded. So this here, like this file, is the entirety of the compiler to C. It's bearing in mind it's written in C, so it's not exactly the most compact language there is. It's 292 lines to parse a compressed TGA file and turn it into a C file. I imagine that something like PNG would probably be in the region of like say 1,000 at least, right? It's a very old format. It was used in a lot of old game engines. How big are we looking at here? So this is apparently a small... This is apparently a small PNG decoder. Yeah, it's 1,200 lines, and it also has a header file, which is like another 80. But yeah, for the most part, there's like header data that describes what's in the file. Yeah, like saying like the width and height and how it's formatted. But then once you get past all of that, it's literally just a list of pixels. There's nothing else to it. And the compression, all it literally is repeat this number for this many bytes. It's dead simple. So it's actually quite easy to write a decoder for. You wouldn't need to do that if you're using an off-the-shelf engine, which I would definitely recommend. Right, so that should leave us enough space. We're going to go to here, refresh. And I'm just going to swap the material over. Why is it called Material 01? Now, if you're starting out with Blender, something that's actually quite sort of important is the render engine. You've actually got a choice of multiple. I'm using Workbench here because I basically want no kind of lighting in Blender because I'm doing it in the textures. The most common one is Eevee, which is kind of like a real-time renderer. This is like doing lighting on top of like my sort of hand-drawn lighting. And there's also Cycles, which is kind of like a that's a ray tracer. Well, it's a path tracer. Yeah, that's kind of like, you know, borderline movie level stuff. But it's very slow, even if you've got hardware acceleration for it. But the reason I'm switching renderer here is, quite frankly, I can't figure out how to change texture when you're on the Workbench renderer. As far as I can tell, there is just no option for it. You know, I'm in the materials panel here, and there's just, let's get my head out of the way. There's just nothing. There's nothing here you can use to do it. So I have to go up here and then change over to Eevee. Right, this machine is cursed. I've run it on machines as low end as an Acer Cloudbook. So we're talking like a Chromebook that runs Windows. Yeah, I ran it on one of these once for doing kind of like similar level models, and I had no trouble running it at all. So this thing had, I think it either had a single or a dual core, and 64 gig of SSD, and how much RAM did it have? It didn't have much. I think it had 2 gig of RAM. So if you're doing really simple, lightweight stuff, you can run it on practically anything. In this case, this machine, I'm going to say you will want more than that for most things people actually use Blender for. This machine, on the other hand, is a 12th Gen i5, the lower end one, because they've split it into high and low end, 16 gigs of RAM, and an Intel Arc A750 because I hate myself. Okay, so we swap that texture over, and now it's very broken. Yeah, because all these textures have ended up kind of crammed into the corner. So what resolution is this now? This is 150 by 36. So hang on, I'm trying to remember how you do this. Multiply by 256, divide by 150. Nope. Is it multiply by 150, divide by 256? No, I don't think it's that either. Hang on. Multiply it by 256 on both axes, and then divide by 150 on the x-axis, and then divide by 36 on the y-axis. And we should end up with, yeah, okay, it's back into pixels. Yeah, the reason I can do that is because UVs are stored in like 0 to 1 space, and then it means if you resize the texture, all of your coordinates end up all over the place. This setting is very useful for me, but wouldn't be for most people. Rounding to pixels, the idea being that if you turn this on, it'll snap the UV islands directly to pixels. What is this? Oh, this is the door. Not useful for most people, extremely useful for people making like sort of like retro models. Okay, so at the moment we've got this random bit of just garbage on the surface. What's this? One of the things that's very confusing about Blender, even if you've been using it for a while, is all of this stuff up here. I could not tell you how these are organized. I have absolutely no idea, and it seems like they move them every version. But I think it's this button will actually turn off all the overlays so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. So one of these should be... I'm actually going to come back into here and I'm going to change the background color. Oh, this is an annoying Ace Bright feature. Every single day I forget to turn this off. Palette lock. Means you can't edit the palette by default. No idea why you'd ever want that. Ever. Okay, that's that lined up. I've just done this so I can see the outline of the UV island a bit more clearly. And that's good. And then this bit down here, let's turn the kind of like overlay back on so we can see what I'm selecting. Where's it gone? I've lost it. There it is. Let's put that in the middle of that. Now the entire section's black. That should look okay. So you might be able to see the occasional kind of like sort of, it probably doesn't compare on the stream, but there's occasional kind of like a sort of bright green sparkle because when the GPU is kind of calculating which pixel to sample from, it's all done in floating point and there can be a small amount of error. It makes that kind of sparkle along the edges because it's sampling these bright green pixels from the from outside the kind of like the actual texture space. That's like 100 times worse than the engine I've made. And I'm not exaggerating. It's like, it is actually like 100 times worse. What do we have here? I think this might be part of the, yeah, the center. So this is, that is trippy. This is this bit. Yeah, this is the kind of the projection booth at the back. Yeah, it's unfortunately extremely common and basically completely unavoidable in 3D, just because the whole stack is from top to bottom all built around it. You do have the option of I think it's called FP64, where you can process in 64-bit precision, but you'll still get occasional precision loss. Okay. See if we can get the rest of this kind of patched up. I've just realized I probably did something very, very stupid because so there's this thing in here called the modifier stack, right? And it basically allows you to do things to kind of like it's kind of like non-destructive editing, right? So for example, I could put a mirror in here and it's basically mirrored the entire structure, right? It's kind of mirrored that to over there and that to there around kind of the pivot point, but it's non-destructive, so that like it's kind of applied on top of the model you've made. I had array modifiers so that, you know, I modeled this kind of like section once and then arrayed it all the way up here. Probably should have waited to adjust the unwrap before I applied that. Would have made sense, wouldn't it? Because now I've got dozens of copies to adjust. Hopefully this isn't too much of a pain. And the height is 36. Oh, wait, I accidentally selected it. Wait, I'm editing multiple models at once? You could do that in Blender? Wait, how long have you been able to do that? What? I didn't think you could do that in Blender. Is that a new thing? That must be a new thing. And this is the experience you'll have every day using Blender. Oh, what just happened? Is that a feature? I didn't even know it could do that. Probably the most terrifying thing that can happen actually is I think it's the number pad decimal button activates something called local view. And sorry, it's number pad slash. When you do that, everything in your scene disappears except what you've got currently got selected. And a lot of the kind of camera controls are on the number pad. It's very easy to accidentally brush the slash key. And you go, oh my God, my entire scene's deleted. What the hell happened? Because you also go like, well, reveal hidden or unhide or, yeah, show hidden objects. And it does nothing. You're like, oh no, Show hidden objects is doing nothing. I must have deleted everything. It's like, no. It's a separate layer of hiding objects for some reason. I'm sure someone somewhere found it useful. Oops, what did I just do? Don't do that. Okay, let's fix these UVs. Right, so yeah, I've got two different versions of the chair. I've got kind of like I've got one for the front row that's kind of like more lit, and I got ones for the kind of like rows behind it, which have kind of like the shadow of the row in front. So these are all going to be the ones behind, and this is going to be the row in front. And then why is that like? Well, why are the black pixels here? They're not here. And yeah, that happens a lot in Blender because it's so modal. Like you got like if you press Control Tab, it kind of like shows you a list of all of the modes you can currently enter, and a few of them you don't want to be in. It also has these at the top, which completely like change the UI. And I think they introduced these about a year ago, and I still don't know what they're actually for. Because you can still get to everything from the layout one, so why wouldn't you use it? It's kind of like the bits along the bottom of DaVinci Resolve, where you can go into all these various modes, and like, but I only ever want edit. Why would I want any of these other modes? What are they for? Is one of these? Oh, I think I know what's happened. Right. I think I've got this entire row of transparent colors. I think what's happened here is some of these transparent colors are actually black and some of them are green. No? There we go. Yeah, I ended up with multiple transparent colors, but some of them weren't actually transparent, they're actually green. Well, mystery solved. Moving on. Let's put that. What is this? Where is this? Oh, that's parts of the projection booth. Okay, we'll come back to that later. What is this? That's the wall. What did I do with that? Ah, it's over there. See the kind of like vague shape. And what's this? This is probably the lighter carpet. I'm having trouble kind of discerning the shades of this like bright green background, but at least now we're going. And I accidentally started playback. Oh, that's another thing. If you play music while you're working in Blender, the pause play button, it doesn't hook the pause play button properly, so it will start playing animations down here whenever you press pause play. But it'll also pause play your music, so you might not realize you've started a bunch of animations. Okay, that's better. Okay, and then I think I've got variants of this for the stairs. I'll look in here so we can figure out which one's which. None the wiser so far. Ah, here we go. So we've got slightly taller versions, I think. Yeah, there they are. Those are for the stairs. And I'm going to guess I've got like an edge piece and a center piece. Just as kind of like a bit of like, kind of like shadow kind of drawn into the edge. Okay, almost recovered this absolute monstrosity mess I made for myself. You know that kind of like Bob Ross saying, if it's your world, it should just be that, but like, it's my fault. Okay, what do we have left? This is probably part of the projection booth. What are these? Oh, I've got them in separate objects. Okay. Let's apply all of these modifiers. As we're probably nearly done with this. No modifiers in any of these. Okay, so now we can merge all these objects together. Should have mirrored this before I did that. And I'm also just going to clean this up a bit. Just get rid of some loose polygons over here. We don't need these. The camera's never going to go past this, so we don't really need much geometry back there. We just need something so you can, you don't just see it kind of like looking into the void. Also, I kind of need to continue the wall around there. I need to figure out how I'm going to do that, given I basically put this in shadow. Don't know. Okay, so grab this. Let's get around there. Jump into there. Fix the fact I've just broken this. Oh. Oh, the door's part of that for some reason. Okay, and I really should have mirrored this too. Why didn't I do that? So, one of the things that Blender is kind of really big on, and in fact 3ds Max and Maya are also pretty big on this, is the idea of edge loops. So you can alt click on things and it'll kind of like select like an entire row of things at once. You can also do it in edge mode and kind of like grab like say an entire edge line. And you can also sort of like do that. It's really, really, really useful because things tend to be kind of like built in kind of like rings. Like people quite often use it for kind of like say, you know, if you're modeling say face topology, they build it out of these rings that kind of like loop around. Being able to select the whole ring at once and kind of like adjust it is a big part of the workflow. It really is if you're working on things that have like, you know, masses of polygons. Like in this case, the scene is the scene would be very hefty for a PlayStation 1 game at like 3,500, but for like a modern game, that's just nothing. From what the Jack in Resident Evil 7, his polygon count is ridiculous. I don't remember what it is, but it's very high. And doesn't look like there's any good stats on that anywhere. I'll have to look that up at some point because now it's in my brain. I need to know. Okay, I'm just gonna fix these, and I'm just gonna get displaying in the engine and probably call it a night for that. So the bottom edges, and then this is just completely black. This piece up here should be kind of shaded. I think that's the shaded one, isn't it? Yeah, that's good. And then these two should also be part of the kind of like striped background. Now we do have a single line of bright green pixels along the bottom of the door, and I'm sort of curious to know why. I'll do, I guess. Yeah, that's Nano in Unreal Engine 5, right? I've not actually played with that at all, but it's it looks kind of intimidatingly powerful, you know? Yeah, extremely, extremely impressive stuff. It's the kind of stuff that, you know, you see tech demos doing it all the time, but nobody really builds game engines with that kind of tech. That's just not a normal thing to do. Oops, I've accidentally closed the window. So I'm just going to export this to an OBJ file. Using OBJ again because it's just really simple to write an importer for. And you'll see exactly why if I actually open this file up. Oh, I exported nothing. Ah, yeah. I've got this, I've got set it to rendered for a little export. So this is an OBJ file. It is literally just a text file. It's like vertex, 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 vertex. And then just making faces by combining vertex numbers together. Dead simple, dead easy to write importer for, even in a language like C. So that should all now be picked up by the import script. And then in the movie theater script, which I'm just going to write now, I'm just going to copy the world map script into there. I've got like a helper here that kind of like generates the import. So it's going to be rooms, movie theater, base. One of the things I've done is I've made it so it kind of works off naming convention. So it'll be taking sort of the name of the file and then putting the name of the objects kind of in there. So that I'll be able to bring this in as a normal sort of C variable. Just going to strip out all of this code. Don't need any of this stuff in here to do with... I wanted this file mostly just for the headers because they're very helpful. I've got a lot of headers to import. Let's find this function. I've updated this, so I should call this into this. Yes, I have. And then I'm going to create an entity. And I'm going to use the identity matrix because we're going to be basically placing it in default location. And then I'm going to create an opaque mesh component, attach it to that. And it doesn't have a parent component ID because we're attaching it directly to the entity. It's not selectable in any way. All these callbacks are just for if you want to be able to make it so you can click on it. And then we give it the mesh. So bring it into there. And then the other thing we need to do is actually set the camera angle. Otherwise the engine will crash because it will go, I don't know what to do. I don't know what you want me to do. So I think I've got the camera angle here, haven't I? The object is camera. I'm just going to steal the 3D cursor position and use it to center the camera. I'm just going to steal these. One of the things I was quite careful to do is actually make it be the exact same coordinate space between the engine and Blender, so I can kind of just copy, I can position things inside Blender and then copy the numbers directly into the engine. Let's go for no rotation for now. That might work. I think I should probably explain here. I'm using a really crude build system called Make. Again, for the same reason I'm using C, which is like I want something that is going to be around for 50 years. And it kind of builds things one file at a time by default. And in C, you can't tell from the build tool, really, which C files import header files. So if any header file anywhere changes, I have to recompile every C. I basically have to do a clean build. Now, where that becomes a problem, and this is where some of the curse stuff happens, is every single letter of every single font is a separate image. So every single one of these gets compiled to a C file, then compiled to an object file, then linked. And it doesn't take forever, but it does take a while. Mistakes were definitely made, but there's a thing I can do where I can say make jobs, which means it'll actually use the it'll actually run tasks in parallel. The only problem with that is it doesn't do any kind of like locking on the output. So you can see here, it started writing an error and then started writing something else halfway through it. So I can't tell what the error actually was. So I have to do a non-parallel build so I can see what the actual error is. And oh, in this case, it's I've passed the wrong type. Yeah, where there's null here, that should be a 0. What's this talking about? Oh, yeah, it's because it's scenarios, not scenario. Okay, this building, I'm just gonna, and the Visual Studio Code terminal just locked up. It's great. That happens from time to time, I've got no idea why. Make jobs, and it should go much faster. Yeah, if you search I think it's called the $1 billion mistake. Yeah, the invention of null is described as the $1 billion mistake. What's really weird in this case is that null in most C implementations is 0, and indeed, if I actually go find null and look it up, it will be 0. But null can actually be a valid pointer in WebAssembly. So null can actually be a valid address. It's very unlikely to be, but it actually could be the location of data, which is not at all cursed, not at all a mess, not at all terrifying. Oh, it still crashed. What happened? What happened? Let's have a look. I have a buffer in my mesh rendering code, and that buffer just overflowed. Yeah, I've got a maximum vertex count in here. Yeah, TSQL's well, the SQL null in general is so weird. Yeah, because like you say, it doesn't mean nothing. It means unknown, and it's such a strange thing. I mean, you could be worse. You could be JavaScript where you have both null and undefined, and they sort of mean the same thing, but not really. So yeah, I have a fixed size buffer where I basically store. I take the triangles in kind of like model space, so like the exact coordinates you find in sort of Blender, you know, like here, and then I turn them into what they call clip space, which is like what you use to actually put them on the screen. But I need a buffer to do that. And that buffer, like most other buffers in this thing, is fixed size. Meaning that if I put a really complex model into it, there's a chance it won't render. And hey, it's rendering. That's probably a good place to stop, because despite the fact I started like half an hour late, I've gone on for a quarter of an hour longer than usual. That's it rendering in engine. And you can see a bit of a gap between the kind of like seats. That's the UV padding thing I mentioned. Basically, there's like gaps between the UV islands. There's gaps there and there as well. Oh my god. Well, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to you playing around with Blender, and hope you have a great evening. See you another time.